Here we are together again on the radio. And so thrilled to be standing here in front of you, for God's sake. Those of you men who have been spending money on chicks, and I tell you all the time not to do this, but many of you continue to do it anyway, might be interested in hearing the following story. If you're the kind of man who tends to spend money on broads, this is a story you need to pay attention to. It was sent to us by a listener named Jeff. Jeff filched this right off the King 5 TV news site in Seattle. Here it is. There's something about Frances Renee Berlin that men can't resist. Even as she's cleaning out their bank accounts. From Washington State to Kentucky, police describe Berlin as an amazing con woman who marries lonely men, wipes out their bank accounts, and moves on. Wait till you hear how she does this. It's unbelievable. Even she can't explain her uncanny hold over men or her skill in manipulating the judicial system. At one point, she was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but walked free. She's very flamboyant, had the world by the tail, said one ex-husband, Scott Berlin of Twisp, Washington, who was taken for thousands after a brief marriage to the woman. Now, hear how this is done. This is quite amazing, and for you morons who call in and tell me online dating is great, and you're going to meet great people, and you boys who love spending money on women, listen to this story. This is how this broad operates. Both were single parents. She was a prosecutor in Virginia. So Scott flew Renee and her son to Washington. She showed up with a couple of bags of clothes and never left. We just hit it off, said Scott Berlin. There was a whirlwind wedding and a honeymoon cruise. Once back in Twisp, Scott's new bride set about wooing the friendly town. She was very bubbly, and everybody just fell in love with her instantly, recalls Twisp Police Chief Charlie Lingo. Renee spent lavishly, but Scott didn't worry. You know why? Because she told him that she had $1 million inheritance coming due. She had this scam down pat, Scott says. I have this trust. My money's due in 30 days. Rancher Corky Barker loaned the new Mrs. Berlin $18,000 with her husband's truck as collateral. Then they repossessed Scott's diesel pickup, and right away I knew there was something going bad wrong, Barker said. Scott says he knew he'd been had when he found his unpaid bills for 18 credit cards. Why do you need a prenuptial agreement, you idiots? Why do you need to keep your card in your pocket? Keep your cash in your pocket. Keep a chick from getting your ATM card. Now, this is an extreme case, but this is the kind of thing that guys let chicks do, and it sucks. Meow. Scott Berlin, wherever you are. Meow, 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 meow. Know what I'm saying, Scott? It says here, in fact, Renee Berlin was no prosecutor out of Virginia. As she claimed, she was a convicted felon from Kentucky. It's a tale that may sound familiar to Charlie Ward in Kentucky, as well as others. Charlie, another ex-husband, said, I fell flat over heels. What does that mean? It's head over heels, isn't it? He said, everything was perfect. We took a couple of trips. She paid for everything. I found out a year later that I had paid for them. In the end, Charlie Ward was left to dig himself out of, get this, $300,000 in debts that he says Renee Berlin left him. Born Frances Renee King in Davies County, Kentucky, the 34-year-old woman has left a string of husbands broke and broken-hearted, from her native Kentucky to Washington State. Kentucky court records attach a few more names to Renee Berlin, including Chevrier, Dawson, Simmons, Mosley, and Linton, all the names of men she was married to, some while she was simultaneously married to other men. In fact, court records collectively indicate that Renee Berlin had been married close to a dozen times and had an arrest record for theft and check forgery going back to 1989 for multiple instances of theft, theft by deception, on top of convictions for receiving stolen property and forgery. These are all those boys. These are the Robert Blakes of the world who meet people without checking their backgrounds and get right in there. They get right in there.
That was all a lie.
I mean, there's a lot of guys like this who do this kind of stuff. How many of you would admit that you got involved with a toxic chick like this? Would you have the balls to admit that to me? First step towards your recovery, you know that. If you've been taken like this, read you some more of this story, and then we'll take a break and go to the phones here. If you've been taken like this, you have the guts to report it. I want to know. Says here, the law doesn't always seem to pose a problem for Renee Berlin. Just months before she turned up in TWISP, she was sentenced to 15 years in Kentucky for theft by deception, including a 10-year enhancement for being, quote, a persistent felony offender. So why didn't Kentucky lock her up? Good question. Renee wrote impassioned letters to the judge asking for counseling, expressing remorse, and claiming she had cancer. And as you see, the judge didn't bother to check her credentials either. The judge suspended the 15-year prison term and ordered her free immediately if she repaid her victims. That was shocking news to Charlie Ward. He said, they let me down. They cut a deal with her, turn her loose. Then she comes to your side of the world and does the same thing to more guys that are innocent. That's a reference to Washington State, where the story comes from. The courts did eventually catch up with her in May of last year, back in TWISP. Renee Berlin's whirlwind spending spree landed her behind bars for 29 months for theft, perjury, and bad checks. She's now serving time at the Washington Correctional Center for Women in Gig Harbor, Washington. She gave an exclusive interview to Channel 5 in Seattle, and Renee Berlin was, they say here, why would you believe a word this woman says? It says here she was contrite about her past and vowed to be better. Here's her quotes. I still don't understand why I've done the things that I've done. I don't understand my life. Berlin said tearfully from the Women's Correctional Center in Gig Harbor, Washington. Because I really want to change. The tears are because I've realized a lot of things being locked up behind these fences. The only thing that I can say as far as for my victims is, I'm sorry. Did I ever intentionally mean to do it? Did I plot that I'm going to go to this person, I'm going to do this? No, I did not. It just happened. She said, oh, my God. Nevertheless, Renee admits she was a con artist, but she says not anymore. No, it's true. And that's why I want to get help to stop. I honestly want to stop. And although she's behind bars, Renee is getting married again. She's engaged to her former boss from the TWISP Mini Mart, where she worked. You know that I'm with Mark right now, and I truly love him. He's shown me something that I've never had before. He's the first person in my life that's ever stood by me, including my parents, including my family. I never knew what support could be. I never knew what being loved could be, she said. That's because you were robbing these guys, you bitch! How could you ever find out what love is about? You were stealing from people! They don't love you when you steal from them. Says here, by our count, this is Channel 5's Cal, Mark Haywood would be husband number 11, but it's hard to know exactly because Renee was sometimes married to more than one man at a time. Haywood is raising Renee's teenage son while she's in prison. Now, the kid's going to be effed up for life, huh? I wonder whose son she is. He is. And says he hopes they will soon be together as a family. In the meantime, prosecutors in Kentucky are planning to extradite once Renee is released from prison in July. And Indiana authorities have issued a bench warrant for her arrest. Hey, Mark, over there at the Twist Mini Mart. This is your betrothed, huh? This is the woman you're going to marry. I'd love to talk to that guy. How do you fall in love with somebody like this? And the teenage son, I mean, you got to be kidding me. Says here, Renee is writing the judge again, and the attorney argues that with Haywood's help, she's finally in a position to repay her victims. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I wonder how much it pays to manage the Twist Mini Mart. She owes one guy $300,000. Could you make $300,000 at the Twist Mini Mart in 10 years of working there? Could you? Doubt it. That must be one profitable convenience store. In spite of her record, her present stint behind bars will be her only serious time in prison to date. That's because the crimes she's been convicted of, writing bad checks and theft by deception, are not violent crimes. And since many of her victims were jilted lovers or husbands, it's easy to argue that they enjoyed the spoils right along with her. Yeah, right. And as Haywood repays Renee's Kentucky victims, he also makes plans to marry her. And listen to the grammar here. I'm going to quote him verbatim. She never done me wrong, Haywood said. She has a little problem with spending, that's true. I'm quoting the manager of the Twist Mini Mart in Twist, Washington. I got a bag of twists once. There were cheese twists and corn twists and tater twists. That's right. I asked you if Haywood was just her latest victim. Renee said this one was different. He's the one, she said. We just click. All right. All right, boys. Maybe you met her on the internet. Maybe you met her at a bus stop. Maybe you met her at Casa Vega. Same night Robert Blake met the woman of his dreams. We all know where she ended up. If you got a story like this, I'd love to hear it.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM.
Why not just adopt?
Because we have the ability to have children.
Oh, so what? I have the ability to take a crap on your head. Does that mean I should come over and do it?
I would like maybe you should try.
The Tom Leykis Show.
Tom Leykis, only on Hot Talk 1080 KOTK.
The Tom Leykis Show. 1-800-5800-TOM. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we go to your telephone calls now. 1-800-5800-TOM. Have you ever been deceived to this extent by somebody? It's John on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. How are you, brother?
Night, John.
Hey, you know, I'm driving home to Seattle. I'm listening to you talk about this, and my back is I'm starting to cringe. I met this girl about, 8 years ago. I was a sales rep for a construction company, so I'm making, $100,000. Got a nice ride. Stop at a Safeway, and she comes out and she approaches me. This girl, after a while, she starts talking, and we hooked up that night. She was telling me she was an intern at the UW. She was going to be a doctor, and I was like, whatever. Maybe I'll just take her out, get some, take care of business. And
you didn't care about any of the details.
Didn't care. I didn't want to know her name. I just wanted to do her.
Right.
So I got to know her after a couple of days. I was thinking, okay, she's got a brand new Acura, and I'm thinking, well, maybe she is an intern. She lives downtown. After about 4 weeks, she's got these checks from like Maryland, and they're funky checks, like printed on the internet. She's like buying dinner with them and saying, hey, if I just give you some money, can you cash these checks? And I'm like, I don't think so, man. And I come to think, she comes to tell me she's pregnant. And I'm like, what the hell? I said, she needs like $500 to get an abortion.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, whatever, and I'm playing the game saying, yeah, whatever, I'll go with you. I go to the abortion. This is And I go to the doctor's, and she's getting it done. She's all drugged up. I go outside, kind of like fake a little tear, and I told the doctor, I said, it's too bad we got to do a late-term pregnancy, on this. She's 16 weeks along. And I'd known her for what is it, 11 weeks? Or she goes, oh, no, it's a 14-week pregnancy, She's 14 and a half, almost 15 weeks. So I burned her right there. First of all, I've only known her for like 10 weeks, and she was like 14 weeks pregnant. This girl had so many problems. Her car was licensed to some dude at Fort Lewis who was like some sergeant.
The last guy she ripped off.
Oh, man. So anyways, we're at my house, and I'm catching on her, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to burn this chick. I'm covering my wallet, making sure I sleep with one eye open. I get on my scanner. She's talking on my cordless phone at home. She's talking to some dude in another place that she's banging, right? And I get on the phone. Right as she's on the phone, I go, who the F is this, dude? And she's like, oh, man, who's this? And I go, you banging her like me? And I go, yeah. I said, man, I think we need to talk because she's banging me right now. I'm looking right at her, and her jaw drops. She's doing the same run on some other dude. Well, the dude told me, he's like, yeah, this chick's wanted in, like, Maryland and in Texas. She's, like, got a kid here, a kid there. Holy cow, I thought I was going to be on Jerry Springer by the end of the week, man.
Yeah, you're a regular Robert Blake?
Yeah, but you know what, Tom? I was listening to you, and I covered my butt. You were saying, watch out, man, girls want all this. I was just got divorced, so I was, looking for anything that came around, but I still wanted to get some tail. So,
right.
Man, if it wasn't for you, I'd probably be on that same show as this dude, that you're talking about, but not as stupid as this Mark character.
Boy, oh boy. Can you imagine this guy at the Twist Mini Mart is going to marry this chick?
It's like, why don't you just give her the money now and get it over with? Hey, brother, thank you very much, man. If it wasn't for you, I'd probably be in that same boat.
John, thank you. Appreciate the call. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. We read your story off the Channel 5 Seattle website. It's a TV news website in Seattle. About a woman who, and her name was Frances Berlin. Frances Renee Berlin, to be specific. And this is a woman who was married, if you believe the story, and I do, 10 times, 11 times, who knows, clean these guys' bank accounts out. Met her over the Internet, never bothered to check any of those credentials. Any of you boys ever had a situation like this?
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
Leykis on Hot Talk.
This is the Tom Leykis Show.
From Los Angeles at 1-800-5800-TOM. It's Griffin on the Tom Leykis Show. Griffin? All right, we'll go looking for Griffin and say hi to Bart on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello?
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Uh-oh.
Years ago, before I heard the mighty word of Leykis 101, I shacked up and shared finances with a woman.
Oh, boy.
Of course, we were going to be married, but she took me to the cleaners for $20,000 in credit card bills. And then when we split up and she moved on to her next victim, I found out her ex-husband she'd used for $80,000, and then she tried to sue me for the equity in my house, for the car that she was driving in my name, and half of my retirement plan.
Oh, boy.
And luckily I had a pretty good lawyer, and I was able to get some of this stuff dropped on, fraud charges, but she never did any time. She is paying me restitution. Now, in Washington, there's a new thing. There's no such thing as common law anymore. 6 months cohabitation is considered meretricious relationship.
Oh, boy.
And I should have married her. Would have been more.
This is why I tell you, boys, and as you know, there is no reason to move in with someone unless you're planning on marrying them. None.
And keep your finances separate. She's moved on to victim number 3, and I've figured out the pattern. It is a single white male who happens to be the son of a successful business owner who stands to inherit the family business.
Oh, boy. Now, do you know who number 3 is?
Yes, I do, and he's in the Seattle area, and I have no contact with him. He's her. She can have him. But,
really? Maybe you should warn him.
Oh, I dropped a couple anonymous emails, but other than that, everybody makes their own bed, and he dumped some other poor female for her, and, you know, she's an LA9, though, believe me.
Nah, well, they have to be to get away with this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Daddy's little girl.
Unbelievable.
Have a good one, Tom.
You too,
Always
Bart.
great.
Appreciate I certainly will. I appreciate the call. Zoe on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Do you care, Zoe?
Oh, I do. I really do.
I'm doing great.
Good. You know, one time you came up to the Camlin and I waited on you in Seattle. And I didn't even realize it was you, and I was sad after you left. I was like, oh, wait.
Oh.
Anyway. And I was living in New York in 1990, and this guy, he tried to pass himself off as Nicky Lauda's son, the race car driver. He took me to the cleaners for $65,000, cash and credit card, played the whole con game.
How did he do it?
Oh, you know, he told me that he was selling his business and that, you know, he'd charge that we could just use my credit cards for a little bit. So he'd charge $5,000 and then pay it off, and then do 20 and pay it off, until he totally stuck me on all three of my cards. And then when I realized what was really going on, I was in a bar in New York, and I was in the stall complaining to this girlfriend of mine, and the other door flings open, and this woman goes, oh, my God, is that Bill Harris? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, my God, he just did the same thing to me. So anyway, it was the U.S. District Attorney in Manhattan. By the time I, contacted them, I mean, they said it was the slickest thing that they'd ever seen, and he'd done this to all these other women. And he got a year in jail, and that was it. You know? Total jerk.
Yeah. But how did you get sucked into that?
I just wonder, because I'm definitely hot, and it was just such a stupid thing, I guess, I dated other men with money in New York, but then when he did that, he'd come into my bar and tip me all the time, and I never really thought anything about it at first. I don't know, partying, having fun, thinking he, said he was who he said he was, but he wasn't at all. So, totally screwed. And it sucks, and there really isn't any laws to people can get away with it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, they can't get away with it with me because I don't ever let anybody have my ATM card. I don't let anybody charge thousands of dollars.
Uh-huh.
I just don't do it. It's my policy not to do that.
I know, and I should have never done it. And I kind of knew when I was doing it. It's like, wait, this isn't right. But somehow you just let it happen, Yeah.
He must have been great in bed. That's the only reason people do stuff like this.
Yeah, I guess so. He wasn't bad, I've had better, but,
Well, yeah, you have a better reason for doing something that stupid?
No, it was just the whole, con game where he would act like, oh, yeah, we're going to go to Italy soon, we're going to do all this stuff, my family, da-da-da-da-da. And none of it was true. None of it.
Amazing.
So, I'm telling you, dumb. And, and I've dated great guys with money, but, here I am in Seattle, so what are you going to say?
There you go. And you're single?
No, I'm not. I actually have a great boyfriend. Great boyfriend.
But you are single?
Yeah.
You're unmarried?
Yeah. And it's fine. I'm not that whole ugly chick Seattle thing, the Birkenstocks and the small socks and all that crap.
No?
No.
None of the rolls of fat covered up by a nice green down vest or something?
No, none of that. None. Oh, God, no.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
so when are you coming to Seattle?
We were just there in, was it November?
Uh-huh.
November, right before Thanksgiving we were there.
Yeah.
You missed us again, of course.
I know. But when you're here next time, I want to come.
We're coming back, I think, in April.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Zoe, thank you for the call.
1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
I'm so glad you called!
The Tom Leykis Show.
Tom Leykis.
1-800-5800-TOM. Have you ever been completely scammed out of thousands of dollars by boyfriend, girlfriend, someone you met on the internet? You know what I'm talking about. It's Mark on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Tom, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Mark.
Man, check this out. My dad retired from Shell Chemical out here in Carson a little over 4 years ago because he had a stroke. So he moved back east where he came from in Bangor, Maine.
Right.
And he recently, him and my mom in the last year have gotten a divorce because he had an affair with this lady, if that's her real name, Maggie.
Uh-huh.
And so far, she scammed him out of $22,000.
How'd she do it?
Just, can I have a check for this? Can I get some money from that? Because my dad trains horses. And the money was just disappearing, left and right.
Uh-huh.
And finally, another $7,000 in bounced checks has recently come back. And she has no explanation where the money from the checks went.
Wow.
And if anybody...
She must know how to suck the chrome off a trailer hitch.
She must know how to do something. I mean, Jesus Christ.
That's the only reason anybody would start forking that kind of cash over.
Yeah, she must do something good. Because my dad's a veteran. He gets money from the VA as well as his retirement. And, it's just not right what she's doing. And I know they can hear the signal. I talked to her phone screener in Bangor, and I hope she gets what's coming to her, because that's just not right.
And Maine, not the best economy in Maine.
No, in fact, my mom and dad tried to get me moved back there after I got out of the Army, and I was just like, no, I'll stick with California after I leave Fort Irwin.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll stay here in California. The economy is much, much better.
Unbelievable. Mark, thank you. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Griffin on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Yeah, it works fine.
Can I help you? Sorry, he put his pencil down and hung up. Okay. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. This is Justin on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom, long-time listener, first-time caller. You hear that a lot, though.
I do.
Man, this story comes from long before I was in Leykis 101. I grew up in L.A., lived in Australia. I understand the concept of an L.A. 10. I was living in Kansas at the time and had an LA 10 plus show up on my doorstep. This was a old...
And of course, you never questioned that, did you? You just said, what a stud I am.
You know what? You're exactly right, because I had no idea why she chose my place to be that day, but she came saying that she needed a place to stay, and I wasn't one to argue. She stays there. Things are cool for a while. She slept on the couch for a while, ended up starting to stay in my bedroom. And I would pay her way as far as food stuff like that goes. Back on radio.
Yeah.
After about 2 or 3 months, she needed $20 here, $50, up to $80 for stuff, and I pretty much refused the whole way around. And she was really crafty in the way she asked, like, hey, Justin, come in the bedroom for a second, and she'll be like just then putting her slip on or something like that. After about so many months of this, I'm like, look, you have to start paying rent, at least pay your way a little bit, get a job. And so I become the complete jerk, can't stand to see me. She moves out for all of 24 hours. Before the very next day, I find out she's dating my best friend and back into my place in the other room. Yeah. Now, I got to be honest, she never really took me for probably any thousands of dollars, but she took my best friend at the time, jaded everybody I knew against me. I mean, it was bad. I find out later that she was doing exactly what you were saying, tapping my friend's bank account, et cetera, et cetera. He figures this out after we're all telling him for the next 3 years. He finally starts to make moves to get out, and bam, she's pregnant.
Of course.
Right. Then another 2 or 3 years go on, and then all of a sudden she disappears and leaves him with the kid, and God knows where she's at.
Oh, boy. It shows you how powerful genitalia can be.
Right. And I mean, I can't get it to you enough. I mean, this girl is drop-dead gorgeous. As much as I hate her now, I would probably give her time of day just to figure out what the hell she's up to.
How was she in the sack?
How was she? Man, you know what? This is the part that tears me up. I never hit it.
No!
Not even one time,
And how much did you lay out?
Let's not go there today.
Oh, boy.
Just,
No, let's go there. How much did you lay out? I want to know. How much did you lay out?
Let's put it this way. If I were to be a regular at a strip club for about 2 months, I probably saw just about that much tail. And nothing more, nothing less.
And how much did it cost?
Probably around $600, $700, probably just under $1,000.
Could have been worse, but
it could have been a lot.
Bad enough.
But man, some things you can't put a price tag on, and just to see my friend get jerked around like that for so long,
You were probably pissed at him in the beginning when he started.
The thing is, though, is you know how dumb male pride is? He won't even talk to me to this day, even though he knows I had his best interest in mind and his best interest in heart. You know, just the pride keeps him from saying, what's up, whatever. But, you know, word to the wise, you know, $20, $30 or whatever, it's still not worth it. You're not going to get what you're going for. A girl is going to respect you or whatever for something more than what's in your pocketbook.
Well, I think you're right about that.
Leykis. Leykis. 1-800-800-TOM.
There are three groups you can get away with making fun of. The deaf, because they're not listening anyway. Those who are mentally retarded, how the hell are they going to organize a group? And thirdly, people with Alzheimer's. Even if they object to the content of the program, they will forget to show up at the protest. Those are the three groups we attack regularly.
This is the Tom Leykis Show.
Leykis on Hot Talk 1080.
The Tom Leykis Show. 1-800-5800-TOM. Have you ever been scammed by somebody you were involved with? Like, in a big way. Thousands and thousands of bucks. Huh? It's Seth on the Tom Leykis Show.
Hello, Dad.
Hi, son.
Hi. This is really stupid, actually. About 10 years ago, I was at my apartment, and there was this girl outside. This was about 3 in the morning. There was this girl outside, and I went over and talked to her, and we ended up talking, and she's like, I need a ride home. And I said, all right, that's cool. I was 18 at the time, right? So I take her home, or actually I take her driving around, basically. She shows me some things. She's like, oh, I just got out of jail. And then I end up going to this motel and where her friends are. She says, I got some friends staying at this motel. And they come out and they basically convinced me to spend some time with them. A couple of them were actually very attractive. The girl that I took home wasn't. But we ended up spending the next morning together. We're spending all night talking, and there was some drinking. And they ended up asking me to cash a check for them. And so I cashed it out of my bank account. It's about $200. I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, all right. And I didn't know that was like a bad thing. So we end up going shopping at this place. We go shopping. We ended up spending like probably the whole thing. Right. And then she's like, could you cash another check for me? And the next one was $300. And we ended up doing some stupid stuff, getting lunch or whatever. And then, can you cash one more check for me? And that one was for like $300. And so that was all in one day. And I never did anything with them.
Wow.
and it was...
And why were you such a sucker, if I may ask?
I was 18. I don't know. I was like, these are chicks. I thought there was going to be some kind of fantasy or something going on. Like a bunch of chicks are all spending time with me. And I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just really...
you were a stud.
Yeah.
Seems to be a running theme here.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, a damsel in distress, I'm taking her home. Well, hang out with them. Meet some new women.
Mm-hmm.
And, I found out later those were forged checks. And the fact that they were staying in a motel meant that they weren't really, from the town. And I ended up seeing a detective, and he's like, well, we can't do crap. And so I was out basically $1,000. I owed the bank $1,000.
Oh, God. Eric on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Okay.
Hey, man, I've got the ultimate story for you. Totally true. You can verify it. The whole works. I was engaged to a girl for a few years, and we were pretty serious. I was a general contractor over in Portland, Oregon. And I had found my father after 15 years. My parents got divorced, and I wanted to go see him because I grew up without him. I went over there. I come back all excited, wanting to move. She says, absolutely not. So I went ahead and moved, thinking she'd follow me. Well, she didn't. So I stayed over there about 3 years, and she called me and said she was in an emergency, needed money really bad.
Mm-hmm.
That her daughter had gotten hurt. So So I flew back. We got involved again. I decided to move back up here. I moved back up here. I go to her mom's restaurant where I pay for dinner with a debit card, a check guarantee card.
Oh, boy. I wish I had more time, but I'm sure it was terrible.
The Tom Leykis Show.